Passion, purpose, possibilities. They're all right there. But sometimes we need a little push. And that's where SheSez comes in. Think of it as a master class taught by the world's most interesting women, sharing stories and ideas, because girlfriends help each other. This is SheSez with Linda Grasso. Hello and welcome to SheSez. Our guest today is Christine Simmons, President and Chief Operations Officer of the Los Angeles Sparks. The Sparks franchise, part of the Women's National Basketball Association, is the only professional women's sports team in LA. Christine, I have to tell you, welcome.
Thank
and
you.
That when I say that, it gives me reason to pause. That's the only professional sports team in LA.
In LA, in
for
California,
women.
actually.
Wow.
Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, you definitely have some of the smaller startups like Roller Derby, which is phenomenal. It has a great following. But when we talk about major sports, yeah, we're the only one.
It's just so interesting because, so often on SheSez, we've talked about how things are changing. Women today, I've got a bunch of nieces in their early 20s and they're so empowerment and, there's been a paradigm shift and what women can do. We talk about change in the corporate world and salaries and top positions. But when you look at women's sports, you really realize we have a long way to go.
We do have a long way to go. And I would say within the actual league itself, within the WNBA, there's a phenomenal presence of women leaders leading different organizations, the different teams, and the league itself. But then in the greater world of sports itself, it is kind of that paradigm that we still have to push through. The beauty is actually on the business side in professional basketball in Los Angeles, so between the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Sparks, all of the business operations are run by women. So we're getting there, we're pushing through, but like you said, there is a long way to go, and especially as it relates to the general fan and how they receive professional women's sports.
The LA Sparks is owned by Magic Johnson.
Yes, 4 other gentlemen as well, but the group is led by Magic Johnson. Yeah, it's pretty much the same ownership group as the Dodgers.
And I noticed when we were speaking earlier, you referred to him as Irvin.
I do.
I referred to him as Magic, but
businessman Irvin or Mr. Johnson, basketball guy Magic, and then sometimes even internally we used to call him Mr. J as well. He's great.
I want to get into what it's like to work with a sports legend. Work for a sports legend in a moment, but I want to go back a bit. You went to UCLA.
Go Bruins.
And at the time, you were thinking about pre-med.
I was. I actually graduated with a degree in physiological sciences, and my goal had been to open nonprofit health centers across the country and do a joint MD MBA program. I really saw a need to advocate for and provide services for underserved communities. In fact, that's where I met Irvin for the first time. So he was playing ball off season at UCLA. He had just opened a lot of his clinics across Los Angeles. And I was like, ooh, let me pick his brain. So I got really bold and said, hi. I was all young and everything was hilarious. When he tells a story, he's like, oh, this curly haired girl. But he blessed me with some great knowledge and advice and that kind of became a mentor to me. And then so I just kind of stayed in touch with him over the years. But yeah, that was the goal. I was constantly in the community and advocating and protesting and all that kind of stuff. I probably should have been studying just a little bit more, Linda. Otherwise, I might be Dr. Simmons today. Didn't quite make it into medical school, but I found a new passion around advocacy, both on in the business side of things, in entertainment, and now in sports.
And you went to work at Disney.
I did. So there. I was on a team that allowed, that worked to make sure that women-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses and veteran-owned businesses and LGBT-owned businesses had the opportunity to compete for business with Disney and get corporate contracts there. And so Irvin has one of his many portfolio companies is a food and facilities maintenance company, and so gave him the opportunity to bid for the business. He won. So he feeds all of the employees that are back of house, both at Disneyland and Disney World.
That is so interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, his portfolio is crazy, from a human resources company to an $18 billion insurance company to an infrastructure fund. He has quite the diverse portfolio.
I would love to take an MBA course from him.
Yeah, it's so funny. When I was working there, I was a executive vice president on his team, and so many, mostly athletes, both current and former athletes, would come and pick his brain about how he built his business empire. It's brilliant. You see the evolution of it throughout his whole career. So it's been a beautiful thing to be a part of, for sure.
So how long did you have that job?
Oh my goodness. So Disney was 3 years, Irvin the first time 3 years, and I
Okay,
went
well,
to
first time you went to work for him, what'd you do?
so I helped look for different strategic alliances and joint ventures that he would create, and then I would help grow them. So
Christine, what was it that he saw in you?
I think it was that competitive nature that he has himself. He always looks for people that are competitors, and because he never settles, and he always wants to like go for the next level or get there faster, do it bigger, do it first. And I know he saw that in me, professionalism, always being prepared, always putting in the work. That's what he looks for in people, and so he recruited me. And so when Irvin recruits you, you kind of come running.
What you were in your 20s at the time, right?
I was a little older. I think I was 30-ish. Yeah,
What's
early
cool, what's
30s.
really cool though is when someone very important and very knowledgeable sees those things in
Yeah.
you and you're younger. I still consider someone in their early 30s, still developing.
Yeah.
You start to see those things in yourself and you kind
Yes.
of rise to the occasion.
Yeah, that definitely was it, and even with this role, and we'll get to it later, but on paper I wasn't technically qualified for this position, but again, he saw something in me that I didn't necessarily see in myself and the other leaders in the organization, and allowed me to take a shot at it. But after I demonstrated, what I was willing, the work I was willing to put in, and roll up my sleeves and do whatever it takes. So
So you were in business development for Magic Johnson at
yes,
that time,
I
and
was.
then you left.
I left because I had an amazing little baby boy. And so, business development for anyone is a little crazy. Business development for Magic Johnson, a bit more. So I said, okay, let me step back for a second. And my husband at the time was a consultant, so was traveling quite a bit. So I said, let
Mhm.
me go back to corporate for a little while for the first couple years of my son's life. And so I led the supplier diversity team for NBC Universal. So the same work I was doing at Disney, I got to lead that for all the business units at NBC
Okay, that
Universal.
doesn't sound like a little job to me, Christine. I'm looking for you to scale back. I thought you were going to say something really little, but that sounds like a pretty full-on thing too.
It was right after the Comcast acquisition and merger, so it was quite the task, but such rewarding work, from the parks at Universal Studios Hollywood to the productions. It was great to be able to see because the more you have people behind the scenes that have diverse perspectives and experiences, the more you see the output in what comes out of that business.
Was there any part of you at that time who thought you might like to quit working altogether and focus on your child? And what was it that kept you with one foot firmly in?
Yeah, that's just, I'm not, I love being a working mom. And hats off to those mothers that do choose to stay, and fathers that choose to stay home with their kids. For me, I've always enjoyed kind of my career and just and my mom was always, she raised four of us by herself while she worked 3 and 4 jobs at a time. So I think that probably had something to do with it. But that's just who I am. And I find I'm my best self, even the best mother I can be, when I'm learning new things and really pushing my limits career wise. And then I get to show my son and teach him those things and show him what's possible as well. So that's just who I am. I think there's so many different ways to be a mom these days, and that's a beautiful thing too.
You're at this big job at NBC. I'm not
Yeah.
going to call it a step back from Magic Johnson Enterprises. Suddenly, this top job at LA Sparks becomes available. Did Magic reach out to you or did you reach out to him?
So he and I kind of kept up. We would do lunch every year and just kind of touch base and see where everybody was.
Where does
And
he take people to lunch in LA? I want
I
to
can't
know.
I can't tell you these things. They're super. No, he's a regular guy. He will go to like the Palm restaurant or those types of things. So you can
Okay,
catch up.
that's not regular, but go ahead. That's
I'm just
upscale.
it's nice. It's a great place. But nonetheless, so we would go to lunch every year and touch base and see how things are. And then we determined it was a good time to come back together. So that's when I came back the second time. And so I was working there for, I think, about 3 or 4 months. I was working on infrastructure. I was working on the Sparks, and I think one other project as well. And then I became an executive on loan that first season, along with two other executives at the organization. And I guess they thought I did an okay job. So then they appointed me permanently the second season. So it was great.
Were you
Have
afraid?
doubt? Yeah.
Yeah, I asked you that in the lobby before, and I'm like, man, because no, seriously,
Yeah.
taking on a women's sports franchise, as we just talked about, that's a challenge.
Yeah.
When the Lakers are losing consecutively, they
Yeah.
sell out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here you are, with, I mean, we talked about it. The Sparks have won 3 championship titles
Yeah.
back to back.
Yeah.
And it's still a challenge to get people to come to the
It
games.
is, and it's crazy. I mean, if you think about it, the last championship this city won with, I don't know, how many teams do we have now? Is ours in 2016. Prior to that, it was the Stanley Cup with the LA Kings. So, it is trying to shift perceptions and just in general. I think it's a phenomenal time for women, as we talked about, to kind of shift paradigms and help break through, what has been institutionalized perspectives of what women should and shouldn't do. I think basketball is a harder sport. You see, like tennis tends to be a little bit more accepted for some reason, right? And a couple of the other sports, soccer, and hats off to the U.S. soccer team and the U.S. women's hockey team. They've all been pushing through, and there's a lot of great momentum right now. But you're right, it's a challenge. So how do we continue to change perceptions, get people out to a game? Because I guarantee you, even like every guy, I love it. Every guy who's like a hardcore NBA guy, once they come and they watch the play, they're like, dang, these girls can ball. Like, and so
Mhm.
I always love that moment when they realize the level of play by these amazing women. And these women are global athletes.
It's just getting them in the door.
It
As
is.
I
It
said to you,
is.
I have 3 huge sports fans and
Yeah.
of all kinds that I
Yeah.
live with, my 2 sons and my husband.
Yeah.
And, getting them to go to, there's still that barrier. I
There
don't want to
is.
go to a women's basketball game.
Yeah.
So, and for you to be successful, correct me if I'm wrong, or for the Sparks to be, commercially successful, you've got to get women and men.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we can't do it in a bubble. And I always joke I'm in the business of empowering young women and enlightening young men at the same time as to what women can do. As we talked about, I'm really looking at those women who may not necessarily be sports fans, but are who believe in women breaking barriers so that we get them out to a game. Or families. It's still one of the most economical, entertaining things you can do this summer with your family. And then those socially conscious millennials who want to really think about where they're spending their money, but still have a good time. And it's a party. It's a party. We have a DJ, we have 3 dance crews. So even if like you're not a huge sports fan, you're gonna have a great time.
And it's affordable.
It's
I mean, the
affordable.
price of going to, an NFL football game or an NBA basketball game,
It's
that
prohibitive.
that price point is prohibitive. And
It
even the
is.
Dodgers,
Yeah.
when you go and you park and you eat a couple of hot dogs and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah. A family
Um,
of 4 can still go to a Sparks game for $100 and still eat and
that's
park.
that's
It's pretty phenomenal. Yeah,
unbelievable.
it's pretty phenomenal.
I want to talk about your job. You've been there how many years?
So this is my 5th season, 4th in the official capacity.
Wow. For any young woman who's watching and is thinking about a job like yours,
Yeah.
or even a middle-aged woman watching, why should
Yes.
we be ageist about it?
Right.
Um, Give me your day-to-day and what your responsibilities are.
Yeah, so I wear lots of different hats with the organization. So everything on the business side ultimately reports to me. So that's everything from sponsorship, out there closing those big sponsorship deals, ticket sales, public relations, community relations, out and about talking about the organization. So when the players can't because they're busy or they're overseas and other folks can't show up, then I'm there helping to spread the word about what we do. From this week, I'm dealing with payroll, audits, workers' compensation, and then I'm here with you. So any day can be a different day, but it's all really interesting. I think where I find the most joy is when I'm in the community. Last season alone, our efforts impacted over 70,000 people in the community. And that's anything from financial literacy to STEM programs to girls empowerment programs. And a lot of that has nothing to do with basketball. So the fact that we can impact these people's lives in a really meaningful way, I'll create more fans that way than just blasting your TV with commercials. So those are all the things I do on a day-to-day basis.
Are there metrics?
Tons. Yeah. So from attendance to ticket sales to ratings, our ratings have doubled year over year. So it's been fantastic. So the receptionist, our attendance is up. where everything is trending in the right direction.
Hmm.
It's just a matter of how quickly we get there.
And yet, when I was saying, "Oh wow, you won 3 championship titles in a row," exhale, you're like, "Are you kidding me?"
Not quite in a row. So we went back to back 2001, 2002. And then 2016, we went to the finals and won. 2017, we went to the finals. Unfortunately, didn't win. So we hope we're going to win this time. But yeah, you exhale and then you have a target on your back. And it's like literally everybody's celebrating. I'm like, okay, I have a celebration to plan. And then you have to capitalize on that momentum of a championship so I can go out and sell more tickets and more sponsorships and all of that kind of stuff. So the concept of a off season is really a misnomer for me on the business side because I really don't have an off season, but it's fantastic and I enjoy every moment of it.
Does Irvin continue to mentor you? And what is it like to work with him? I mean, seriously, instead
Yeah,
of all the stuff you normally hear that he's a really nice guy,
yeah,
how involved is he? How open is his door when you have an issue?
yeah.
Um,
No, he's great. He is a visionary, as I mentioned. He constantly wants us to push the limit and see what we're doing differently and better and all of that. He loves coming to the games. It's so funny. He comment literally from the dancers to the music. Like he literally will give notes on all different aspects of the business. Of course, he very much is involved with the basketball side of it, and I know he talks to our general manager on a daily basis for the most part, or at least weekly for them. He's been a little busy with the Lakers lately, but definitely talks with her a lot on the basketball side too. But yeah, he is a great mentor for me and continues to open doors and is a visionary for us and for me personally. So it's a beautiful thing. And then just exposing me. So and the other owners as well. They all have such amazing careers, and so being able to just be exposed to that, I think so many times, especially as women, like I didn't know how you buy a sports team before, right? And so now learning that process and understanding how it works, he's given me that opportunity and introduced me to so many amazing people that had also become mentors to me as well. So, yeah, he's very much involved. He will push you hard though, which is what I enjoy. I like that.
how are you when it comes to asking questions about things you don't know? Do
Yeah.
you raise your hand?
Oh, definitely. Oftentimes, though, what I'll do is I'll make a note. I will try to research it myself first. And then if I can't find the answer myself, then I'll raise my hand. But I'm a firm believer in creative solutioning and really finding things out on your own because I think that, like, maybe it's the scientist in me from my undergraduate career, but I think first you want to make sure that you've done everything you can do to try to figure something out. And then because I have such respect for people's time that if it's something that I should know or I can easily find out if I'm coming to Irvin Magic Johnson and saying, "Sir, da 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 da," and I could have easily found it myself, then that's not showing him the respect or any of the people in my life or in my mentors that. But if I do, yeah, hey, help! I haven't done this before. I haven't done this
Mhm.
before. This is what I'm thinking. Here are some ideas. What do you think? Don't ever go empty-handed.
Looking back, do you wish you'd gotten an MBA?
You know what? I think so. Yeah, I think it's important. I may still go back and get it. We'll see. I
I don't
think
know. I think you ought to teach an MBA class. I don't
you
think
know,
there's much they could teach
I
you
love
now.
this strategy of business. So yeah, I think there's a lot there that I probably could share with folks. I think it's just making sure that one is as up as one can be on finance and the constantly evolving economic situation. I was just listening to CNBC on the way here and how sports betting is affecting all the other different businesses and industries, and they're talking about how it's actually going to be a positive impact on Twitter and on all of these other like industries that you wouldn't even think about now that this ruling on sports betting is going on. So I think, always having I'm always thirsty for more knowledge. So I would think about going back.
Christine, have you made a point to keep yourself educated and with the times in terms of social media?
It's so important. It is. I'm literally on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, not so much. But yeah, it's important. It's how we market our business. So my marketing budget is really, really small. And so we strictly do digital marketing and social marketing. Earned media is so important for us as a business
Seriously,
owner.
you're only digital.
For the
Well,
most
that's
part.
so interesting because I mean, I guess I still see like there should be billboards and like buses drive by with LA
Sure.
Sparks.
I mean, I think that, the reason we go digital is because you can actually see the direct correlation with digital marketing and it's easier to convert, right? So and I know some people think ads on your Facebook are annoying. But guess what? If you click on that, it's a lot easier for you to go and buy a ticket than if you're like, oh, look at that bus going by. What was that website
Yeah.
again?
And you can get those numbers.
And you can get those
because essentially
numbers.
when you're advertising on Facebook, anytime anyone clicks on your ad, you're charged for it. And I
Exactly.
mean, it's a charge you want and you
Right,
welcome because you're trying to get
right.
people to interact.
Exactly. But I think it's just more direct. It's more actionable. It's more dynamic, right? So if we have a campaign, and with sports, things change constantly. Like, we could be leading the pack, then all of a sudden maybe we're not. Maybe we're in playoffs, maybe we're not. So you have to change messaging on a regular.
So often, when you look at the NBA or you look at the NFL, there's a big star, there's a
Yeah.
breakout star, and that star can be famous or well known for his athletic abilities on the playing field or on the court, or it could be, the jewelry he wears or his crazy hair and
Sure.
what he shows up with at bars and nightclubs or whatever. And those people get famous and
Yeah.
they put butts in the seats at those games.
Yeah.
How critical is it with a women's professional sports team? And do you try to foster and cultivate those breakout stars as part of your marketing strategy?
To an extent, yes, but I think less so than probably on the men's side. One, I think that we focus on our athletes being role models a little bit more, and they hold that dear. At this point, 99% of our athletes are college graduates. Just now, we're starting to see more of them come out a little bit earlier out of college. So you do have your breakout stars. I mean, Lisa Leslie and Tina Thompson and Swoops and Witherspoon, like they put the league on the map, right? And
Do
then now,
those women get endorsements?
oh yeah, yeah. So those are kind of your legends of the league. Now you have Candace Parker, we have Nneka Ogwumike. They both have huge endorsements as well. And then so each team has kind of its breakout star, if you will. So it is important, but at the same time, one of the things that people love about the WNBA is that it's team ball, it's fundamental ball. Like so many coaches and men bring their kids, boys or girls, to our games to say, you want to learn defense? You look at Elena Beard. She was Defensive Player of the Year. In fact, last season, maybe the season before, we had one of the Lakers, and he was sitting courtside next to me, and he was like, whoa, we would have never made that play. That was amazing. Like, so just the fundamental aspect of what pure basketball is, people come to us for that. So the stars help, sure, especially crossing over to mainstream, but I don't think it's the core of who we are, but it does help.
It's funny when you were just talking, you brought your hand up, and I can't help but notice this massive
Yeah.
ring you're wearing. It's a championship ring,
That's our
right?
2016 championship
Oh my
ring.
goodness, that goes from the beginning of your middle finger to the middle of your knuckle. How
It's-
large is that ring?
It is quite large. It is quite large. It's funny the way they measure these things, just to give you full perspective. So this is 3X, and the same company made the Cavs rings a couple years back, and LeBron's is 8X. So if you think mine is big, his is even worse. But it has 143 white diamonds. You have 4 black diamonds on it. You have the city skyline here on the side. On the inside, you actually have our women's empowerment logo.
Wow.
There on the inside. So there's a lot of symbolism and meaning on this ring.
And all the players got this after you won the championship?
All the players, ownership, senior leadership. In fact, everybody in the organization got a version of this ring.
When you win your next championship, are you going to make the ring bigger?
It'll probably be about this size, I
I'm
think.
thinking you might want to go with some sort of medallion.
We have those too.
Seriously?
We have those too. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to talk about you a little bit. You have this big old honking job
Yeah.
with a fair bit of pressure.
A little bit.
And you are a single mom.
I am.
You're divorced
I am.
and you have a son.
I do.
How do you
Christian.
tell me about Christian and what does he think about his mom's job? He's got to be impressed. Come on.
He's pretty awesome. He's a crazy 7-year-old, a very tall 7-year-old, I might add. But and his dad is very much in his life. We have a fantastic co-parenting relationship, and I'm so proud of the son we're raising. But it's funny because I'll be like, Christian, what do you want to do when you grow up? And he plays basketball. He has been playing like every Friday or so, and he'll be like, well, I want to play for the Lakers, but then I want to be president of the Sparks.
I love that.
I'm like, aim higher, kid, aim higher. But he's great. He literally, I drag him to, every game. He wears his credentials and owns the place. And I love that confidence in him. So it's a beautiful thing. And so he truly has shown me how you can raise a strong yet enlightened young man in this day and age. And that's something I'm so very proud of.
You also are president of the UCLA Alumni Association.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a big job. And why did you take that on? Why is that important to you?
It is. So I had been on the board for like 4 or 5 years. Actually, my first year on the board, I was pregnant with Christian. So that's how I keep tally of how long I've been involved with that board. And prior to that, I was working with the UCLA Black Alumni Association. But I was so active and involved with UCLA, and it was so important to me in undergrad in forming who I am. So outside of the classroom, I would lead organizations, and I got so much out of all of it and forming my viewpoints on advocacy and diversity and being active. And so giving back was just kind of a given for me. Although right when somebody nominated me for the president role, I had already been done. Like I was like, okay, I've put in my time here, guys. So I was ready to move on. And it was right when I got this role, this job. And so I was kind of freaked out, to be quite honest. I didn't think I would be able to handle it. And I mean, ultimately, right around that time or the year after, the chancellor asked that we include everybody who's ever graduated as part of automatically a member of the Alumni Association. So meaning I represent 500,000 Bruins that either graduated or got a certificate from UCLA. But I'm so glad I did it. It is time consuming, but the amazing Bruins I've been able to meet, the change and impact we've been able to make. We've created anything from career programs to mentoring to just scholarship. It's just been so phenomenal, and it's just the least I can do. I got a lot, so I got to give it back.
I would assume because you have a big job and your alumni position and you're a mom, you have to say no a lot. I mean, in terms of social things
Yeah.
and also just in terms of general asks.
Yeah, I'm getting better at that. Not as good as I should be yet. But I've found I'm like, okay, you're getting burned out, girl. You gotta pull back a little bit. And so I've been taking a little bit more time for myself, but it's a challenge because again, I feel such a responsibility. Who am I to say no? I've been blessed with opportunity, with a platform, with this visibility, both on the Sparks and the UCLA side. If somebody reaches out and says, "Hey, I want to share your story about the Sparks," who am I to say no to that? So, but what I continue to share with other women is that when you say no, you also though get the opportunity to empower another woman or somebody else to get that opportunity themselves. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to not be involved. It's just now you can give somebody else this platform and share it with them too. So that's how I try to negotiate it in my head and say, okay, well, I can't do it, but so and so can, and they're going to be phenomenal.
Yeah.
And you share with them what's important, and then now they have this opportunity, and you're multiplying the impact.
Christine, you've got your season opener coming up. What's the date and where is it?
Yes. So the tip off to the season is in Minnesota on the 20th. You hear this in my voice because we lost to them in the finals last season, and they're raising their banner and getting their rings, whatever. But it'll be a fantastic game. It's been an amazing rivalry. So Sunday, the 20th is the season tip-off in Minnesota, but our home opener, more importantly, at Staples Center is Sunday, May 27th. And so folks can go to lasparks.com and get their tickets and be there.
And what's the ticket range? What do they start at?
Again, they start at $10,
Literally?
but literally $10.
You said that in the lobby. I was like,
Yeah,
really?
$10. Like if you got a group together, a group of 10, you can get $10 and $10 tickets in their
That's just
great seats.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
You could take a
courtside seat-
family of 6.
You could take a family of 6. Courtside seats are not even that expensive at all. You'd be totally surprised. A couple $100.
Christine, before I end each episode, I ask for takeaways. What can our listeners learn or take away from your story?
One, that anything's possible. I think you don't necessarily have to come from a traditional background of business or sports or whatever it is that you aspire to do. And then more importantly, I want women to continue to capitalize on social capital. It's so important how we continue to grow our network, because then we can continue to empower each other and make our impact even bigger. I think more and more we're seeing that men have done this for many, many years, right? So how do we then become that for each other? And that will help you get past any barrier, I think. So as long as we stick together, we'll make such a great impact and do some amazing things.
Christine Simmons, I've so enjoyed chatting with you and learning about the LA Sparks.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for taking the time.
Yes.
And thank you to our listeners for joining us. If you like what you hear, hit subscribe. New episodes of SheSez will automatically be downloaded. And quite frankly, when you're a subscriber, it's a lot easier to listen while you're driving the car or walking the dog. You can tap your podcast app and simply hit play. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, write a review. It takes a minute and will help us stay alive. Just tap where it says see more episodes. Scroll down to the very bottom and you'll see where you can fill in the stars. We'd love 5, of course, and write a review. Don't forget to press send. Thanks again, and we'll see you with a new episode next Tuesday.